Very interesting place. You know, I guess most of us had summer jobs as teenagers, and while we did it for the money, in the process, we might have learned a valuable life lesson. Such was the case for a lady named Susan DeMay. Teresa Bush profiles this Smithville artist who found her destiny in a simple lump of clay.
Okay, now I'm going to pour this color on each one of these areas.
When she's not teaching at Vanderbilt University, you can find Susan DeMay working in her Smithville studio, Creek Ferry Pottery. It's here where the New York native lets her imagination run wild as she creates pottery, or stoneware as it's often called, that is both functional and decorative. Her work includes everything you can imagine, from everyday dishes to sculptures for your table or wall, to flower vases, to a giant plate like the one she was making the day we visited. Since childhood, Susan knew she wanted to be an artist.
A few years ago, my mom gave me my kindergarten report card, and it said Susan does very well with scissors and crayons, so I guess being an artist was literally in the cards. And my earliest memories was like 4th grade. I used to trace things, and it was hard to see through the paper, so I figured out that it was easier to just draw it than try and trace it. And then my parents regularly every year gave me art supplies for Christmas presents.
Art was always on Susan's mind, much to the dismay of her guidance counselor, but much to the delight of her art teacher. Eventually, Susan's future came into focus when she started doing something that she didn't like.
When I was a teenager, I worked in a factory for a summer, and I knew I didn't want to do that kind of work. And so that was one of the things I liked about doing art, is that was always interesting and challenging.
So it was settled. Susan would get a degree in art. In fact, she has 3 of them now. Her future became even more clear when she enrolled in a course on how to make things with clay. She fell in love with the ancient craft, and it's been her passion ever since.
Once you've mastered the steps, it's very magical to see that ball of clay turn into a thin-walled vessel. It can happen really quickly when you learn how to do it, and I always like how it amazes other people too.
Susan utilizes 2 methods of clay construction when she works. The more traditional way is wheel thrown, and the other is called slab construction, a process where the clay is rolled out, then it's put around forms to create whatever is in her mind.
I like variety in my workday, and so if I get tired of the wheel, then slab construction is a change from that. But clay has a lot of different parts of the process, which is one of the reasons that it appeals to me, because again, going back to the factory experience, I didn't want to do the same thing day after day, so I can work on the wheel for a while, then I can do some slab rolled forms for a while.
As you might expect, it takes a lot of tools to make things from clay, from brushes to knives to rollers. But every now and then, Susan makes her own tools. For example, she uses corrugated cardboard to make the leaves on most of her pieces.
Well, I came up with this because I don't really have time to go hunting leaves all the time, but also real leaves don't leave a deep enough impression. So I just came up with this idea one day and thought, well, I can cut the leaf out and this will suggest the veins.
But that's just the beginning. Next, the piece has to be fired, then cooled, then fired again. Then the glaze, which is the colorant and protective covering, has to be put on, either by brush or by pouring. Then that has to be fired again. Then there's more glaze, and so on and so on. It's all these extra steps that make Susan, Susan.
There's probably not that many people who try and copy what I do. And if they do, they probably are like, that lady's crazy. It requires a vast knowledge of many glazes, and it requires a lot of focus to get, through the whole glazing process. And a lot of people don't have that kind of patience. You're right, they want to just dunk it in a clear glaze and be done with it.
But Susan does, and it shows in the wide variety of pieces she makes and the wide variety of colors, designs, and shapes that's visible in each one.
I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I get to do my work, and I get to work with other artists at my school, and I get to influence young people and educate them about the value of what we do.
So this is better than a factory?
Way better.